3 weeks after the battles of Lexington and Concord, our town became the launch pad for the second military action of the Revolutionary War, the attack on Fort Ticonderoga. I'm not going to go into the background of this exciting story and why it mattered, but you can find out all about it in your program, so I hope you read it. Before we begin the program, I have a very special announcement to make. It is our great privilege to introduce 3 descendants of Ethan Allen: Nelson Hitchcock, Liz Hodson, and her son Jack. Could you stand or identify yourself for us? That's very cool. They are all descendants of Allen's daughter, Lucy, and have graced us tonight with their presence, so hopefully it's enjoyable and memorable. So we already gave them a warm Castleton welcome, and we thank you for joining us. Let me tell you what's going to happen over the next 90 minutes. First, I'll ask local representative Zach Harvey to read a resolution passed by both houses of the Vermont legislature this past April. Then we're going to try to gather in front of the stage for a photo. Yes, that's going to be the biggest challenge of the night. So we will get up here. There was a photo taken 50 years ago, and we want to beat that. So we're going to get cuddly and tight and close and get a photo. Following that, we'll break for a few minutes and give you a chance to visit with the reenactors who have joined us today, members of Whitcomb's Rangers. They have a lot to share about the lives of 18th century Vermonters and revolutionaries. In case there are any health issues, our loyal emergency first responders are set up in the back corner of the gym. So if there's somebody that has a problem, or if you notice somebody with a problem, we do have some first responders here. So thank you. Following this mix and mingle minute, I'll call you back together for a 15-minute play. After that, we'll participate in a ceremony to honor the lives and service of 11 valiant Green Mountain boys buried right here in Castleton in the cemetery next to the Federated Church. Now it's my honor to welcome Representative Zach Harvey to the stage.
Thank you very much, Mike, and what an amazing turnout tonight. I just can't believe, certainly the weather didn't deter anyone from coming out and enjoying what is truly a very important milestone for our town, for our community, and for our state, and really for our country. So on behalf of Montpelier, I'm going to be giving some greetings of a resolution that was passed by both the House and the Senate. So bear with me as I work through House Concurrent Resolution 72, offered by Representative Harvey of Castleton and Senators Weeks, Collmore, and Williams. House Concurrent Resolution commemorating May 9th, 2025 as the 250th anniversary of Ethan Allen's arrival in Castleton in association with the American War for Independence. Whereas the battles of Lexington and Concord, fought on April 19, 1775, initiated the long and deadly conflict between rebellious residents of the American colonies and the government of Great Britain. And whereas, as a result of the Committee of War held with the Green Mountain Boys and others in Zadok Remington's Tavern in Castleton, their local field commander, Ethan Allen, dispatched Samuel Herrick to lead 30 men to lock down Skenesborough, now Whitehall, New York, and to seize British Lieutenant Philip Skene's fleet of boats in order to transport the Green Mountain Boys across Lake Champlain. And Ethan Allen also directed Gershom Beach to run more than 60 miles to alert men living in towns along Otter Creek and beyond of the need to rush to Hans Cove and Shoreham on the east shore of Lake Champlain, where they would eventually meet Ethan Allen and more Green Mountain Boys. And whereas this plan was finalized at Castleton, and the Green Mountain Boys successfully seized the British-held forts and liberated 78 cannons at Ticonderoga and 111 cannons at Crown Point. And these events were seen as early patriot triumphs in the American War of Independence from Great Britain. And whereas, over the next winter, an oxen crew that Bostonian Henry Knox led moved 29 cannons from Crown Point and 30 from Ticonderoga to Boston, where they placed on high ground in order to force the British Navy to evacuate Boston Harbor. And whereas these epic military operations enhanced the reputation of the Green Mountain Boys and contributed to the securing of American independence from Great Britain and began Vermont's journey towards admission as the nation's 14th state, and now, therefore be it, resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the state of Vermont that the General Assembly commemorates May 9th, 2025 as the 250th anniversary of Ethan Allen's arrival in Castleton in association with the American War of Independence, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Castleton Town Clerk in the Vermont State University Castleton campus. Signed, Jill Krowinski, the Speaker of the House, and John Rogers, the President of the Senate. Thank you very much. Enjoy the show.
You're a little taller than I am. Thank you, Zach. We do appreciate your service to our town, our state, and are grateful that you were able to join us tonight. Okay. I had a little change here. We're not going to have to come up to the front and get all cozy. They're going to take it from the stage. So that's going to be less chaos. So, you want me to sing? I'll sing. So, wow, I think you'll see in front of that. So now, we're going to kind of get in as close as you can, if you're on the edges or the fringes, so that we make sure we get everybody in the photo. Yeah, everybody that's here can just sit down, and that way you're not blocking the view. If you're really, really vertically challenged, you can stand up.
Castleton. Good job, Roy.
If you want to stay around about 4 hours, those will be developed if you want to see them. We're going to kind of move past the mix and mingle at this point, and we're going to move right on to the special play. This dramatization of the critically important meeting called the Council of War that took place in Remington's Tavern, according to town lore, not next to the Federated Church. In fact, The tavern probably was not located there, but maybe towards more closer to Sand Hill or near the cobbler shop. So, without further ado, for the next 15 minutes, suspend your disbelief and enjoy the show.
Zadok Remington.
Greetings to you, sir. You must be the gentleman from the Vermont Gazette.
Anthony Haswell, at your service, sir. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Absolutely. This is my good wife, Anne.
Mrs. Remington.
Good day, sir.
Well, congratulations to you both. The town is buzzing with excitement.
Oh.
It seems the 9th of May would belong to the both of you.
Oh, no. Not just to the two of us, but to the whole of Castleton.
Yes.
Why, it may have been some 25 years now, but many of the townsfolk here remember that meeting of 1775.
Well, of course, but, you know, our readers of the Gazette are very eager to hear of that fateful day in your inn 25 years ago.
Well, my wife, Anne, can attest that I hardly remember half the things I did even yesterday.
Oh, Sapphic. You say too much.
Yes, but every single last detail of May 9th, 1775 is still as clear and fresh in my head all these years later. Why, it was only 3 weeks after the first shots of independence were fired at Lexington and Concord.
And that is only 150 miles from here. Can you imagine our surprise when our peaceful village of Castleton was now to be part of a major hostility and a very important plan?
Yes, but my wife and I, we were ready.
We are not ready.
The day has come that the American colonies have finally had enough and have taken the first steps in shedding the yoke of British tyranny. The blood of our patriots has been stirred, and New Englanders, being men of action, have already conceived their next bold course.
Fine words, noble thoughts, but our inn is nowhere near ready to greet the prestigious party conceived by Mr. Parsons.
One of our earliest patriots, Samuel Parsons of Connecticut.
Remember his words. The idea of inalienable allegiance to any prince or state is an idea that is inadmissible to me.
Help me, Zadok. The table needs setting.
We should use the good crockery.
We still have that crockery.
Indeed we do.
Yes, so according to my notes, Mr. Parsons met with John Brown from Massachusetts, who was sent to Montreal to see if Canada would be willing to send delegates to the Continental Congress to aid the colonies in their growing dispute with Britain.
True, but Canada said no.
But he must have stressed how important it was that the fort at Ticonderoga be seized as soon as possible if the king started hostilities. We saw how important Fort Ticonderoga was during the French and Indian War, since Lake Champlain was the principal waterway between the French and the British empires.
Yes, but remember, Britain won that war, and they no longer faced an enemy here on the continent. And Ticonderoga had fallen into disrepair. British General Thomas Gage was well aware of this fact, and after Lexington and Concord, he sent a request to Quebec Governor General Guy Carleton to reinforce Fort Ticonderoga.
And why didn't they?
They didn't have time. Our men knew something that the British garrison at Ticonderoga was as of yet unaware. The war had already started 3 weeks earlier.
So Mr. Parsons took 300 pounds without authority from the Connecticut Colonial Treasury to put John Brown's suggestion into action.
Wait, that's in my notes also. He enlisted the help of Major Edward Mott and Colonel James Easton. They started in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and began their journey north, gathering troops along the way. Their first stop was to be Bennington, to enlist the one person who had the means to pull off such a daring expedition, Captain Ethan Allen. The colonies had no army at this point. The closest thing they had was Ethan Allen and his Green Mountain Boys. The group was formed years earlier to protect the New Hampshire grants from New York authorities who sought to remove the grant settlers from their land. They became an efficient and feared militia. Mott and Easton knew that if this daring plan had any chance of succeeding, they needed Ethan Allen and his Green Mountain Boys to lead them. So, Mott met Brown and Allen in Bennington, and Allen was eager to deal a blow to England.
As Allen said, the first systematic and bloody attempt to enslave America thoroughly electrified my mind and fully determined me to take part with my country.
And so he ended up at our end.
Yes, and they had agreed that secrecy was of the utmost importance of all of their movements. Allen gathered the Green Mountain Boys, and they laid out their next plans. They adjourned, and by the most discreet means possible, made their way here to reconvene in Castleton, where they would finalize and put their bold plan into action. The seizure of the British fort at Fort Ticonderoga.
Oh, I can still see them secretly arriving from Bennington. Do you know how hard it was to be witness at the most important moment that this village has ever known, and not to be able to breathe a word of it to anyone?
Can I please just tell Martha?
Not a word. Telling her would be like telling the town crier.
Noah Lee here.
Noah Lee, Gershom Beach. I'm not surprised our local representatives are the first to arrive. Make yourselves comfortable, gentlemen. The others will be here soon.
Good day, sir. Good day, ma'am. The name is Noah
A
Phelps.
pleasure to make your acquaintance, Mr.
You as well.
Phelps.
That's Samuel Herrick.
And Asa Douglas.
Come in, gentlemen. Make your introductions.
Seth Warner.
And James Easton.
James Easton, sir. Ma'am.
Edward Mott.
It's Ethan Allen.
Oh, it's Ethan Allen.
Captain Allen. Captain Allen. Oh, wonderful. Good to see you, Ethan. Cheers. Oh. That's right. Gentlemen, I trust you were all successful and stealthy in your travels from Bennington. More than our courage and our muskets, secrecy will be our greatest weapon if we are to achieve victory in this endeavor. I believe our first order of business will be to elect our committee of war. Captain Edward Mott, would you please be kind enough to read the candidates and titles for approval?
Sir. Gentlemen, we have come a long way in a very short time since this noble endeavor was first suggested. Now is the moment where we will put our ambitions and our plans into action. These nominations have been thoroughly discussed and are now to be put before you. For the chairman, the committee has elected me, Edward Mott. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. All in favor now of electing Noah Phelps as commissioner, say aye. Aye. I next nominate James Easton to be second in command and Seth Warner to be third in command. All in favor say aye. Aye. And finally, for our commanding officer, the nomination is for Captain Ethan Allen. All say aye. Aye. Congratulations, my brave countrymen. Our fate is now in your hands.
My fellow patriots, I direct your attention to the map. I have selected Hans Cove in Shoreham as our next rendezvous point. It is 2 miles north of the fort on the opposite side of the lake. It has good cover, and it appears to offer our best hope of crossing the lake undetected. we will use caution and take part of the old Crown Point road to get there to avoid detection. Anyone here who can offer a better location, speak now. If not, are we all in agreement? Aye. Now, let's see what resources we have to deal with. Seth, how many men have we brought with us?
Well, cousin, we have 20 men from Connecticut, 20 men from Massachusetts, and 100 Green Mountain boys, ready and willing to follow you to glory.
Excellent.
I do not doubt their readiness, but I would like to see if the possibility exists to add to our numbers. I open the floor to ideas on this matter.
Captain Allen, my name is Gershom Beach, and I am confident I can recruit men from the neighboring towns and farms to join our noble cause. Home, family, business does not delay our farmer soldiers. Their rifle, bullet pouch, and powder horn are always at the ready.
Very good, Mr. Beach. If there are no objections, you may proceed with your plan. You only have mere hours to rally as many men to our side as you can. Bring them yourself, or direct them to Hans Cove. Tell them Allen summons, the meet Shoreham, the business tide, the time now. Yes. God speed you, sir.
Good luck.
I again remind you all that secrecy must be maintained. Even rumors must be dispelled, or our entire expedition will be for naught.
Captain Allen, my name is Noah Phelps, and I believe I can reassure you on that point. I have just come from Fort Ticonderoga, and what I saw there will please you. I disguised myself as a woodsman, and I entered the fort under the guise of needing a shave from the garrison barber. I noticed many of the guns were missing from the ramparts, and the walls and gates were in terrible disrepair. Wonderful. Indeed, there's less than 50 men in the entire garrison, and they're not in a high state of alert. Unbelievably, it appears they have heard nothing about the commencement of hostilities at Lexington and Concord. If we act fast, we can catch them completely by surprise.
Sir, may I also suggest that we seize the town of Skenesborough right away. As you're aware, why, it's the whole of British Major Philip Skene. It sits on the south end of the lake, and it's full of loyalists. Also, I think Major Skene also has boats, which will help.
Yes. An excellent suggestion, Mr. Lee. We're going to need as many boats as we can get our hands on. Samuel Herrick, Edward Mott, I would like you to take 30 men and pay Major Philip Skene a visit.
We will leave immediately. We will indeed take the town, and we'll prevent anyone from leaving the area to assure that our plans are undiscovered.
If need be, we will take prisoners. We will also secure as many boats as we can and move them to Hans Cove with great haste.
May fortune favor you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Godspeed.
Captain Allen, the way I see it is, this whole plan relies desperately upon our ability to secure boats. It's a long way from Skenesborough to Hans Cove, and the possibility exists those boats don't make it on time. Indeed. I propose that I go ahead alone, and by means fair or foul, attain boats from locations closer to Hans Cove. I will not fail you, sir.
Make it so, Mr. Douglas. I agree it would be unwise to count on the boats from Skenesborough as our only option. Good luck to you.
Good luck, sir.
By my reckoning, that concludes our business here now. We need to get to Hans Cove to finalize our plans.
I will tell the men from Connecticut, from Massachusetts, and the Green Mountain Boys to make haste to Hands Cove and use the discretion that they use coming here from Bennington.
Tell them to take no chances. We are so close now. Their loyalty and courage will be rewarded when our victory is secured.
It's a good plan. I think with the decisions we've made here today, our chances for success are great. In fact, I am now confident that we will succeed.
At this early stage of hostilities with the Crown, the responsibility falls upon us, for we are the only ones capable of striking a blow. Our resistless fury will send a clear message to old King George that we will not be subjugated. Huzzah! Huzzah! Mr. and Mrs. Remington, we thank you for your hospitality, and as God is my witness, we will succeed in our purpose.
May Providence be with you all. My good wife, I expect this is a day we will be talking about all the rest of our days.
And history will long remember what transpired here.
So, consulting the notes again, Ethan Allen and his men reached the rendezvous point at Hands Cove just after dusk on May 9th. Incredibly, Gershom Beach traveled 60 miles on foot through the towns of Rutland, Pittsford, Brandon, Middlebury, and Whiting, and arrived in Shoreham in time for the assault with over 80 additional men, most of whom immediately dropped whatever work they were doing and followed Beach. Over 230 men now comprised the invading force. The group, led by Samuel Herrick and Eric Mott, were successful in securing the town of Skenesborough and prevented anyone from leaving the area to raise the alarm. Major Philip Skene was en route back from London at the time. Herrick and Mott were unable to secure any boats in time to the lake crossing.
And while all of this was taking place, a Johnny-come-lately made an appearance.
And what an appearance!
Pardon me, my loyal countrymen. Might you tell me where I could find Ethan Allen? The name is Benedict Arnold. And I have been commissioned by the Massachusetts Committee of Safety to lead 400 men and seize the forts at Ticonderoga and Crown Point.
I may not be a school teacher, but that looks like only one man to me.
I will be assuming command of Captain Allen's forces.
You are going to take command of the Green Mountain Boys over Ethan Allen? My heavens, I wish I could be there when you make that proclamation to Captain Allen. I really do. The expedition has already left for their next rendezvous point at Hands Cove. I expect if you make haste, you may reach them there in time.
Hands Cove.
Benedict Arnold did make it to Hands Cove in time.
Indeed, and he did try to seize command from Ethan Allen, even electing himself leader of the expedition.
And?
Well, the Green Mountain Boys threatened to drop their weapons on the spot and abandon the mission if they were not assured that Ethan Allen would remain in command. Well, Allen made a generous offer to Arnold to come aboard as a volunteer officer.
Which he accepted.
Begrudgingly.
So by 1:30 a.m. on the 10th, no boats had arrived, and Allen debated postponing the invasion for the day if they were unable to cross the lake by sunrise. Finally, a large rowboat arrived along with its caretaker,
who had been bribed with a bottle of Vermont spirits.
Asa Douglas then arrived with a second boat, so Allen proceeded with the assault. They were only able to get 83 men across the lake before it became too dangerous for risk of detection. Seth Warner and the main body would have to wait until after the attack started. Allen formed ranks on the other side of the lake at 4:30 a.m. and announced, "We must, this morning, either quit our pretensions to valor or possess ourselves of this fortress in a few minutes. And, inasmuch as it is a desperate attempt, which none but the bravest of men dare undertake, I do not urge it on any contrary to his will. You that will undertake voluntarily, poise your firelock."
And all 83 men immediately raised their muskets.
A local farmer's son, who knew precise details of the fort, then guided them to a small wicket gate on the south wall, which was open and guarded by only one sentry. General Thomas Gage's request for fortification obviously went unheeded. The fort had a garrison of 38 men, plus 24 women and children, and all were still asleep. Allen and Arnold entered together. The confused British soldiers never fired a shot and escorted Allen to the commanding officer's quarters. Captain William Delaplace was awakened by Ethan Allen shouting, "Come out of there, you damned old rat!" Allen called for his instant surrender. Delaplace, half asleep, half dressed, and clothes in his hand, asked by what authority. Allen later wrote that he exclaimed in reply, "In the name of the great Jehovah and the Continental Congress." So I think he may have rewritten that line a little bit.
He did. I think he did rewrite that line, but I do believe the damned old rat part.
No matter what he said, Delaplace had no choice but surrender.
And Warner arrived soon after and was disappointed to miss the action. Allen immediately sent Warner and 100 men to Crown Point, 15 miles away, to capture the fort there. Crown Point only had 23 serviceable defenders, and Warner captured it easily. The expedition captured 78 cannon at Fort Ticonderoga and 111 cannon at Crown Point. The capture of Ticonderoga and Crown Point were the first colonial victories of the war. Months later, Henry Knox suggested to George Washington that he could retrieve the serviceable cannons from Ticonderoga and Crown Point and bring them to Boston. On December 5th, 1775, the noble train of artillery hauled 60 tons of cannon and other armaments by horse and ox-drawn sleds over the snow-covered New England landscape to the Boston siege camps. The trip took 6 weeks. The cannons fortified Dorchester Heights. So commanding was the new battery over Boston Harbor that the British withdrew their fleet to Halifax, Nova Scotia. Colonel James Easton was selected by Ethan Allen to carry the news of the victory to the Continental Congress. Ethan Allen and Benedict Arnold both wrote letters giving details of the victory.
But Allen's letter never mentioned Arnold at all.
I wish to God that America would, at this critical juncture, exert herself agreeable to the indignity offered her by a tyrannical ministry. She might rise on eagle's wings and mount up to glory, freedom, and immortal honor if she did but know and exert her strength. Fame is now hovering over her head. A vast continent must sink to poverty, horror, bondage, or rise to unconquerable freedom, immense wealth, inexpressible felicity, and immortal fame, to liberty and those with the spirit to assert it. Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah!
Wasn't that great, folks? The actors are listed in your programs, so please look them up. I think they have a future. I'm going to let them clear before we go on. Okay, I'd like to recognize Crippet Fellows, American Legion Post number 50, and reenactors of Whitcomb's Rangers over here to my right, here left. I'd also ask that representatives of the 11 civic organizations that are listed in your program who have joined us this evening, we're kind of off script a little bit. We're not down at the green, so it takes a little bit of a turn, but I'll at least recognize those 11 civic organizations if they could come forward for a representative. Come on up. If you're a member of the 11 civic organizations, we want to recognize you, please. Tom, I'll let you marshal. Tom, I don't have the program, so I can't read them off. So we have Darius Branch, and we also have Royal Shiley American Legion Post 50. Is Rufus Branch here? That was Benjamin Whitcomb's Independent Corps of Rangers. Isaac Clark. What's that? Oh, all right. Jonathan Deming, Daniel Eaton, Cyrus Gates, Noah Lee, Elias Hall, John Hall, Preserved Kellogg, and Zadok Remington. Thank you. Tonight we're privileged to celebrate 11 Green Mountain boys that are buried in our local cemetery, who risked their lives to give birth to this nation and the freedoms that it's provided us. I'm going to go through those names again. Darius Branch, Rufus Branch, Isaac Clark, Jonathan Deming, Daniel Eaton, Cyrus Gates, Elias Hall, John Hall, Preserved Kellogg, Noah Lee, and Zadok Remington.
Detail, present, arm.
I want to thank you to American Legion Post 50, Whitcomb's Rangers, and Nick Thornblade, who just played Rosalind's Castle, and Mike Barberi on the drum. So thank you. This almost concludes the celebration in Castleton. Before we break, some thanks are due. I call your attention to, well, I'll read them off. I won't call your attention, I guess. There were so many hands that were involved in this little moment in time in Castleton, Vermont. So we want to thank them for their volunteering to put this play on, to be here in the rain and to celebrate 250 years of history. First, I want to thank the voters of the town of Castleton, because on town meeting day in 2024, the voters approved the appropriation that funded this celebration. So thank you. Thank you to the playwright, Jim Thatch, director of the play, director of the play, Kevin Collins. And even though we didn't use it, Charlie Brown had donated the trailer in case it was going to be at the green. We're inside, but thank you to Charlie for donating. To the members of Whitcomb's Rangers who added an air of authenticity to our evening, thank you. To Vermont State University at Castleton student Joe Vivian, who produced all of our wonderful graphic designs. Joe, are you here? Wave your hand. Where's Joe?
He was here earlier.
He was here earlier, but so we thank Joe. To the dedicated, hardworking committee, Mark Brunel, Pat Drinkwater, Ken Flowers, some guy named Mike Jones, Jim Proctor, Royal Shealy, and Tim Short. Thank you. For those of you paying attention or taking count, there are two people that didn't get mentioned. First one is Tom Hughes. When I was asked to MC this, I was like, what? And Tom's enthusiasm is what captured me. So thank you, Tom, for your vision and your enthusiasm and your inspiration. Tom grew up in Castleton, and he was 19 years old when the town celebrated the 200th anniversary of Ethan Allen in Castleton. It obviously left a big impression on him, because he went on to become a historian and to devote his professional life to America's 18th century history. It was he who came up with the idea for this celebration. It was he who launched the ballot initiative that funded this project. It was he who chaired the committee that planned these events. It's fair to say that without his efforts, we wouldn't be gathered here as a community tonight. So thank you, Tom. The other person that wasn't mentioned is Joe Mark. And Joe has amazing organizational talents. And once he gets something in his head, you're probably not going to change him. But he did a great job organizing this, keeping the information flowing. So, Joe, thank you for all of your assistance in making this possible.
You got to give 51% of that credit to Joe Mark. Castleton's Joe Mark was fantastic, so hardworking, so dedicated, but then everybody cooperated. Thank you.
So before everybody has to build the ark to get home, we're taking out a part of the program where the celebration was at the cemetery. So it's a little disappointing, but that's the way the cookie crumbles here. But Joe Mark will have some fir sprigs in the back when people leave. Because while the Green Mountain Boys didn't have uniforms, they proudly distinguished their membership in the militia by tucking a fir sprig in their hats. So Joe will have those in the back if you'd like to grab one from him on the way out.
And feel free to visit one of the graves and lay it on if you like. They have American flags on them right now.
So have you heard that? If you want to go to the cemetery, the graves now have U.S. flags on them.
Yes. They will soon have Green Mountain Boy flags.
Say that again, Joe?
They'll soon have Green Mountain Boy flags.
Correct, yeah, there'll be also the Green Mountain Boy flags on there as well. So thank you for joining us this evening. I hope this gathering helps you appreciate the freedoms that our brave and determined ancestors worked so hard to achieve for us 250 years ago. We'll see some of you in 50 years. We're going to do this again.